In one of the models, I actually used a little bit of Scotch tape. That was helpful, but you could use the glue stick instead of that. And to attach, when we make the greeting card, to attach the things to the greeting card, the glue stick is good. You could also use these little tape rollers that have two-sided tape on them. Those work, little glue dots for attaching things. And we're going to make something called conversation hearts. And you don't have to do this during the class. You could easily do it after the class, but to write things on the hearts. I've been using these little Tombow markers that have a brush on one end, and I use the marker part on the other end. Take the cap off so you can see. So it's got a little marker. But if you don't have anything like that, you could write it with ballpoint pen, or I did try it with this Sharpie marker, and it bled into the paper, and so that the letters weren't as clear as I would have liked. So that I didn't really like that one. But you can use any of your other craft supplies for writing or decorating. So those are just some extra things, but I'll show you the samples. Let me move this away so you can see the samples of what we're going to make today. So these are the conversation hearts. And if you remember that they're like little candies that come in a teeny little box, and they have all these fun sayings on them. So we're going to do those in origami, and we're going to put them on a greeting card as a pop-up. So the inside of the card pops up, and then it folds into the card.
That's so cute. I love that.
So that was that.
Idea.
And then I was making a sample this afternoon, and of course I made it upside down. So there is another way that you can make the same card with the pop-up in the center. But then you have that interesting corner difference. So this has a square corner, and this has a diagonal corner. So that's what you do when you make a mistake. And these are the origami bowl, the heart bowl. And this is actually 3 bowls, and they can slip into each other. So it has this area here. Let me put these down so I can use 2 hands. It has this area here that is actually a flap. And so I can take the flap from the larger one and slip it into a pocket that's in the back that attaches it to the flap. So you can make smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, or larger and larger and larger, and make a whole nesting set. All right, so let me move those all to the side.
Okay, so welcome if you just came in. We were just showing the projects. We have not started yet, so we will do that in just a few moments. So as you may have noticed, this is set up as a webinar format. What that means is that you're going to be able to see and hear our instructor tonight and myself, but I will disappear in just a moment. But I will be here to answer questions in the chat box. So at the bottom of your screen, you can find an icon that says chat. If you click that, that'll come up on the right-hand side of your screen, and you'll be able to chat and see the video. If you don't anticipate watching any questions, you could just make Marianne larger and see exactly what she's doing. The other feature that Zoom now has and that we can utilize is the raise hand tool That's a little hand icon at the bottom. What that is going to indicate to me is that you want to speak. So if it's an appropriate time and Marianne's not in the middle of her demonstration, I can unmute you and you could either share what you're doing or tell us a story or ask a question if you need clarification. So the little hand tool will be used and I will unmute you. So if you accidentally click it, just go ahead and unclick it and then I won't unmute you. So that's how we'll use that tonight. I've done, I think this is the 4th program we've had with Marianne in this virtual platform, and she's very good at explaining exactly what you need to do. So you may not have any questions, but we are recording this as well. So if you do get stuck or you want to go back and remake something, there will be a video available on our MCPL TV YouTube station. So I'll go ahead and put that in, and that is a resource that's available to you. And you also have the great directions that were included with this kit. So use all of those tools. And you also have my email as well. So you could always email me, and I am Amber Gagliardi. I'm a librarian here at the Middle Country Public Library. Looks like we have a great turnout tonight and a lot of people are here, so welcome. And I am going to turn it over so we can get started tonight and make some awesome projects. So if you need me, I'm here. Just go ahead and message me. Thank you so much, Marianne. Whenever you're ready, you can go ahead and get started.
Great. Thank you so much. Good evening, everybody. And I am Marianne Shebline Dawson. I'm an origami specialist. So I've been doing this for many, many years. And tonight's program is focused on the theme of Valentine's Day. And so I have a couple of cards here that you can make. And this is a pop-up card. So it's got a little mechanism on the inside. And to that mechanism, we are going to attach these little hearts. There are many, many different origami hearts that you can make. And some of the hearts do different things. They serve different purposes. Some of them have 2 sides. Some of them are very, very clever. They have arrows going through them or whatever. So one of the famous origami creators who sort of specialized in making origami hearts is a man whose name is Francis O, and it's spelled O-W, Francis O, and you can look him up on the internet. And he has out some origami books that are just based on hearts. So very interesting, but heart models can get very complicated. So this particular model is very, very simple. Now you have received some 8.5 by 11 inch copy machine paper. So you may notice that there are a couple of different weights. That means the paper, some of the paper is a little bit heavier or a little bit thicker. So you want to find the one piece that's the heaviest, and that would be either it's deep red or pink, hot pink, or a strong color of light pink. Okay, that's the piece that we're going to start with. So you need that piece plus one of the other pieces. So this is a way to make a square. Oh, no, actually, no, just that one piece. That'll be fine. Just that one piece. I'm going to move these to the side. And I'm going to switch my paper to a smaller size so that it fits on the screen a little bit better. So I'm just going to start with that piece. And you'll see that this is how you can make any rectangle into a square. And my camera is there, it goes better. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to take the shortest end of your rectangle and you're holding it along the side, Okay, it's vertical. And you're going to fold it up along the longest side. You want to make sure that you bisect the upper corner. You're going to cut that in half. You want a really sharp point and make sure that this edge lines up with the edge below. And when you're happy that it's in the right spot, then you can smooth it down a little bit and then make a good sharp crease. And this is where you might want to use your folding tool. You could use the spoon or your folding tool to get a nice sharp crease. Okay. Now, the piece that is folded, you'll see there's a triangle flap. Okay. Along that edge.
Marianne?
Yes.
Okay, so I think a couple people just need clarification. So you have 3 pieces of copy paper, if you will, the bigger paper, and then 1 small piece of origami paper.
Right. You
We are
need
just
one.
right.
We're working on the larger piece, the
Yes.
copy machine paper.
Yes, the larger copy or machine paper, and you're using the heaviest weight one, and that's
Yes.
either red or pink.
Right.
And then you have a lighter piece, a lighter color piece. It's also lighter in weight, and then the white piece. Sorry, we just had a couple people in the chat trying to clarify that.
Okay. So this is how we're making a square from a rectangle. Okay. So we've taken the shortest edge and folded it up to the longer edge. Okay. Now this creates a square. This square will have a crease in it. But for the model that we're making, we need that crease anyhow. So that's going to take care of that. Now I'm going to take my pencil and I'm going to just run it along the edge here so you can see that more clearly. You could use a ruler to do this, but I'm just going to. Okay. So there's my flap that I folded up. And when I open it up, there's my square. Okay. So now I am going to cut off this extra piece. Okay. If you have a rotary cutter or a slide cutter, one of these, you can just put it in there. That's usually what I do because that's what I have. Okay. But you can easily just cut it. That comes off. That extra piece that you have, that's what we're going to use to make the conversation heart. So don't get rid of that. Okay, we're going to need that. And because it's a rectangle, we're also going to have to make some squares for that. So don't get rid of that. Okay, so here we go. So you now have a square that has one diagonal crease in it already. We are going to put in the diagonal for the other direction, but we're going to stop it at the center. So it's only going to be half of the diagonal. So the way you do that is you take that horizontal crease and you turn it so that it's vertical. You're going to bring the bottom corner all the way up to the top corner. And I'm only going to fold from the center crease to the right. Oh, I didn't do a good job on that. Okay, this is not square. That's what the problem is. Okay, let me go back to the screen piece. Sorry about that. Okay, folded it up to the top and to the side. Okay, so I'm only making half of the crease. The other side is not creased. When you open it up, you'll see you have one full crease and a half crease. And you're going to turn it so the half crease is up at the top, and then you have this nice vertical crease going across, horizontal crease going across. Okay. Now I'm just gonna open this up for a second here. Okay. You're going to put that horizontal crease, the full crease, back in. Okay, so now the triangle is pointing to you, and you see this crease going right down the center. This is where you might want to use a pen or a pencil to make a little mark right up at the top edge, right on that center line. If you can see that, I'll make it really dark. Okay. All right, so now you have two layers. Okay, there's a top layer, that's a flap. So we're only going to pick up that top layer, and I'm going to start with the left side. Okay, I'm going to bring that left edge to that mark. At the same time, I make sure that I keep this opposite edge folded on top of itself. So the corner is right on the edge, and this edge is touching that mark. Okay, and I just want to keep moving it until this opposite side is nice and flush. So I have to keep moving it back and forth until I'm happy with it. And then I'm going to crease it. But when I do, it's no longer flat. You can see it's got this sort of a cone shape, like a cat's ear. Can you see that? Okay, so here's the edge. It's touching this black mark that I made, which is the center crease. And this edge is completely flush or flat. Okay, I'm looking at two different screens, so hang on a second. Let me just move this over. Okay. Thank you. Now you're going to unfold that and flatten it down, and you'll see that you have a crease here. You're going to do the same thing with the right side. So now I'm going to pick up just one layer. I'm going to take that edge to that mark, making sure that the opposite side lines up evenly along the edge. Okay, so that's nice and flush. And again, make that crease, and I have to get my finger all the way into the corner to make that 3D cat's ear kind of a shape. And then again, bring it back down and flatten it out. So now, let me draw this in so you can see it. Okay. So now you have two creases that cross each other. Everything is back down to that flat triangle. As I come down that center crease, I'll see this little square that I made with the crease, and right down the center is the crease that's already there. So I'm going to put in 3 creases at the same time. I'm going to take this center crease and I'm going to pinch the 2 sides together, just one layer, okay? I'm going to pinch it together along that crease, and that puts in those 2 creases that you just made, okay? So I have this the part that I'm pinching, this little triangle, and I'm going to push those 2 flaps down flat, and I'm going to, I have a piece that's sticking out, it's a triangle. I'm going to push it to the side. It doesn't matter if you go to the left side or to the right side, okay? But just flatten it down. Get my hands out of the way and you can see what it looks like. Okay. Now, that whole middle part is a loose flap. See how I can lift that up? So I'm going to lift it up a little bit, and I'm going to take the edge, the end of that triangle. There's already a crease there, and I'm just going to flip it around to the back underneath and flat. Oh, I see there are some new messages. Let me. Okay, so somebody wanted to see it again. Let me go through it really quickly. I took the left edge to the mark and down. I took the right edge to the mark and down. Down at the bottom, I have this square. So I'm going to mark it even more heavily so you can see it. Okay. And right down the center, there's a crease already there. So I'm going to lift up this, just the top layer. I'm going to pinch along that center crease, just within that little square. That lifts up those 2 edges that you folded, and I'm just going to keep pushing them towards that center mark. Push it down flat. That gives me this triangle flap, and I'm just going to push it. The second cat's ear, both cat's ears were done the same way. Okay, so you just take the edge. Sometimes it's helpful. You see how the edge is up at the top? If I turn it so that it looks like a right angle, sometimes it helps. You're lifting that second, just the top layer, you're lifting it up to touch that second part and flush with the outside edge. Got it. Great. Thank you, Cassandra. Okay. Then you push the layers up, lift it up, and tuck it under. Now, I did miss one little step, but it's easy to do it at this point. You'll see that these cat's ears are pointy. So we don't want it to be pointy. So I'm just going to flatten it out a little bit and take that point and push it to the back. I'm just folding over just the tip of the paper. You can see a little itty bitty triangle that I folded to the back. So that is more rounded looking. So again, you'll see here's the tip of the cat's ear. I'm just going to flatten it a little bit with my fingers and then fold the tip, push the tip to the back. And that's it. That's the heart-shaped dish. So if you want to make the nesting set, you just make them 1 inch smaller and smaller and smaller. So I started with an 8.5 inch square. Then I went to 7.5 inch. Then I went to 6.5 inch. You could start with a 6 inch square and go 6, 5, 4, or you could go larger. You could go 6, 8, 10, as long as you just get a little bit larger square, but they're all folded exactly the same. And then it just slips into that tab that's in the center. And in behind, there's a pocket. The tab goes into the pocket. You could also slip a little note under here for your message, I love you. Or you could slip notes into the back, into that pocket there. Let's see if I have a scrap of paper. Just stick it in there. You could put a ticket in there, a coupon, tickets to a play. If you remember back in the day when people used to go out and go to plays, we'll be doing that again. One of these days, we'll be doing it again. Okay, so that's the heart dish. Now you're going to take that little snip of paper that you had left.
Marianne, I have someone who raised their hand, so I am going to unmute them since you're at a good point.
Yes, that's great.
Sandra, did you have a question? Looks like your microphone is off, so you're actually gotta unmute yourself if you want to ask that question.
Oh.
Sandra, did you have a question? Your hand is up.
No.
Hi. Did you have a question? Okay. Well, I'm going to assume it was a mistake, so you can continue on. And Sandra, if you have a question, just go ahead and type it in the chat box.
Okay, so everybody has, let me get a strip of paper like you have. So I have the same size so you can see what I'm doing. And I'll do a quick cut. So the strip of paper that you have left is big enough for you to make a couple of hearts for the next one. So we're just going to take that piece and cut it in half. Just snip it. It doesn't matter if they're equal halves or not. And we're going to hold one in the vertical position and one in the horizontal position, and put one over the other. Make sure you use the two corners that you didn't cut. Okay, put those together because those are still perfect 90-degree corners. Okay, so line up the top edge, line up the side edge, and whatever is sticking out, You just want to take your scissors and cut. So cut one side and then turn it over and cut the other. And that will give you 2 small squares that you can use to make the conversation hearts. Okay? So we're going to take a bottom corner up to the top and make a full crease. And open it. And I'm going to turn it so that the crease is vertical. Now I don't want to put another crease in. I just need to find the center of this line with a pinch. So I'm going to take the bottom corner up to the top, and just in the center, I'm going to give it a little pinch and let it open. Okay. I'm going to mark that just so that I can see it and you can see it. My camera is just being so ornery tonight. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to I have that crease going up, and the full crease up and down. I'm going to take the bottom corner to that little pinch. There we go. Okay. Bottom corner to the pinch. And then I'm going to turn it so that little flat edge is up at the top. And I'm going to take the bottom corner to the top edge right on the crease line. Okay, so I want to make sure that the point stays right in the middle. Okay, so I have 2 triangle flaps that I folded. The first one is a small triangle, and the second one is a larger triangle that touches that top edge. Okay, so that's a shorter flat edge. Down here at the bottom, I have a longer flat edge. That's the edge I want to use. I'm going to take 1/2 of that edge, so starting right at the center crease. Usually I just put my finger right exactly next to the crease. Then I take my hand and I lift up that edge and I bring it all the way up. There's another landmark, okay? This bottom corner, this little obtuse corner here, is also going to touch the top edge. So I'm going to bring that edge up like so. And I'm going to do the same thing with the other half, the bottom edge. I'm going to fold it up so the 2 edges meet along the center, and it gives me this shape. So that's almost a heart. The only problem is that the heart is kind of rounded at the top. So we have 4 corners, 2 on the right and 2 on the left. We're going to blunt those to the back. So if you take the whole thing and flip it around to the back, you will see that there's also like a little pocket back there. And there's my little pointer. There it is. Okay. I have this flat edge going along the back. And when it comes to the right side, to the outside edge, you can see where it meets the edge, that flat spot. So that's where I'm going to bend this outside corner over at that spot. So I'm just folding over a tiny little triangle. And the same thing on the other side, right at that intersection. Now, if it's not right at that intersection, it doesn't matter. This is a very forgiving model. So we've got the two sides folded in. And now at the top, I'm also going to just blunt that top corner just by folding over a teeny tiny little triangle. And the same thing on the other one. Just fold over a teeny tiny triangle. Turn it over, and there's your heart. Now, the only thing about this heart is that the two sides do open a little bit. They tend to flop open. So remember I said if you had some glue or a piece of tape. So if I take a little tiny rectangle strip of tape, can you see that? There it is. Just a small piece of tape. Okay, it's stuck to my finger, so I know that that's the sticky side. So I'm going to turn it over so the sticky side is up. I'm going to take my heart and slip it through that center opening so that I'm just sticking it to one side. Okay, so it's still stuck to my finger. I'm just slipping it in, and then I push down on that flap and pull my finger away. Now the little piece of tape is sticking up, so I just lift up the right side, tuck it under, and put it back down. And so now that piece of tape is keeping the left side and the right side down. Okay. So these are the sample conversation hearts that I made. And you got on your handout, you got I just went on the internet and I Googled conversation hearts, and I just wrote down a bunch of the things that people write on conversation hearts. And they're usually small words and usually not more than two, although in the hints that I gave you, some of them were larger. So if you like to write a lot of things, you can. But the conversation hearts, the little candies, are very small. And so you usually can't write too much on them. But I thought those were fun. So you could fold a bunch of those and put them in your dish, in your heart dish. I guess you need a bigger dish, but that would work. Or a candy dish on the table. Okay, so now we'd like to make a card to put the conversation heart on. So you can you have two large pieces of copy machine paper left. So decide which one you want to be the card and which one you want to be the envelope. Okay, I'm going to teach you an envelope that is so simple. It's the simplest envelope fold that you could imagine because there's absolutely no measuring involved. So you take one piece of your paper and I'm going to start with the short bottom end. Okay, I'm going to fold up a hem. It literally does not make any difference how big the hem is. So this hem that I folded up was about 2 inches, approximately. Now I'm going to fold the left side. Okay, so actually what I'll do is I'll turn it so that that becomes the bottom. And I'm going to fold up another hem. Make sure that the outside edges are flush, that they're lined up. That will make sure that everything is going to work. So fold that over. So now I have 2 adjacent sides folded. I'm going to work on the left side again. So I'm going to take the paper and turn it so that it becomes my bottom. And now I'm going to take this raw edge or the cut edge, and I'm going to fold it up so it just barely touches this top flap. Okay. Fold it up. And again, make sure your outside edges are flush. That's so important. Get your finger in there. If you have any little lumps, pull down, smooth it. And again, you can use your folding tool because you have lots of layers of paper there. And then turn it one more time. The only raw edge or cut edge that's left, you're going to fold it to this little edge that's sticking out. Fold it up. Okay. And then, so this is the last one that you folded. That's the full length of the card. Okay. So I have that on the left side. And I'm going to reach, I'm going to open it up. I'm going to reach in and I'm going to pull up this underneath flap. I'm going to close the left flap over and kind of tuck it inside. See how I'm pushing it in? I'm going to just keep pushing. The crease is already there. See if you can find that crease and just keep pushing it in. It's like closing the top of a cardboard box where you fold each one of the flaps up in succession and then tuck one under the other. So that is the envelope. Okay. Now, if you're going to put this in the mail, I would suggest, you see you have these loose flaps. I would suggest a little tape to keep each one of those flaps down, because otherwise the envelope will get caught on other mail and it might not make it to your location. Now, it doesn't matter how much you fold the flaps. So you can fold them smaller, so you'll have one small and one big. You could fold them so they go exactly to the center, to the middle, but then you'd have to measure. So, and then you would turn it over, write your address, put your stamp on. This can go in the mail. So you could write a letter on the back and fold it up and use the letter as your envelope. But we're going to put the card in it. Now, the card should be smaller than the envelope. So we can't make the envelope bigger, but we can make the card itself a little bit smaller. So take your third piece of cardstock, 8.5 by 11 inch paper. And we're also going to do the very simplest card that you could imagine. So again, you're going to take the bottom edge, the short edge.
Marielle,
Yes.
Hi, we did have a request to do the envelope again, if you don't mind.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So you're going to start with your rectangle of paper in the portrait mode so that it's vertically the long way. Take the bottom edge and fold up a flap. Then you're going to take the left side. I usually bring it so that it's now down on the bottom. Fold up another flap or a hem. It does not matter how much you fold it up. It could be narrow, it could be wide. It doesn't matter. Because when you fold the third side, you're just going to fold it to touch that opposite edge. So even though they're different sizes, it's literally half of the paper. The measurement is half. And then the last edge, you fold it to touch this short edge. So again, I'm going to turn it so it's down at the bottom. It's always easier to fold up away from you. I'm going to fold it up to touch that edge. And that's the last flap. Okay, so I'm going to turn it so the last full flap is on the left. I'm going to open it up and I want to tuck this last flap under the first flap. This is the first flap up here. So I'm going to lift this paper up and close this flap in. And now I have to push all of this paper that's up here to the inside. So I'm going to kind of cheat and lift it up a little bit. Push it in, push, 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 till I find that the crease that we made. Push it in. There's the crease. And flat. Okay. It's that last bit that's just can be a little bit unnerving. But just take the paper and just shove it in there. It's very forgiving. And then flatten everything out. Okay, and then when you open it, everything just pops open. Oh, good. Okay. Okay, so now we want to take to make the card. Okay. So we're going to take the short end of the bottom short end and bring it up to touch the top short end. We're just folding the paper in half. It's called a book fold. So I have one folded edge. I'm going to turn that so that that folded edge is vertical. And again, I have a short edge. I'm going to take that short edge up to the top. So another book fold. I folded the whole thing in half one way, and then I folded it in half again. So this is called a quarter fold. Okay, I folded it into 4/4. We have this nice little booklet. You can use this for all kinds of stuff. But if I was to put my letter or on top of it, my envelope, or the envelope on top of the letter on top of the envelope, you can see they're exactly the same size. So I just want to take this card and trim it down a little bit. You can use your scissors. I usually use my sliding cutter, which somehow I managed to, there it is. It's such a small area I'm working in, and yet I always lose things. So I'm just going to cut off 1/8. So a small strip. You can do it with your scissors. This cutter doesn't like to cut through 4 layers. Okay, so you see what I cut off. Just 1/8 of an inch. Or actually, that was 1/4 of an inch. 1/4 of an inch on the long edge. And make sure you're cutting the cut part. Okay, so not the folded edge. And I'm going to cut 1/4 of an inch off of that also. Oh, I have to trim it with the scissor. Okay, so now if I put it over the envelope, you can see there's a margin on each. So it will fit inside the envelope now. Okay. So now you've got all this confetti. Now, normally, when you have a card like this and you open it, okay, so this is a folded edge, and you open it, on top is also the folded edge. But that's not what we want this time. So I'm just going to flip it upside down. So now I have the folded edge on the left, and when I open it up, the cut edges are on the top. Okay, so in here is where I want to do some folding. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick it up, don't turn it around or anything, pick it up and take the back layer and bring it towards you. Okay, so now you have a mountain fold going across the paper and a valley fold going up and down. Okay, I want to close this paper up, but I don't want to refold this crease that's down here at the bottom. So I'm just going to fold the top part and not worry about the bottom part. Okay, so just the top is folded. And I want to come down, about 1.5 inches. Should be pretty good. And I'm going to take that corner and I'm going to fold it over so that this folded edge runs parallel to the top. So I'm just folding over a small triangle. Okay. And then I'm going to open it up and I'm going to turn the paper from left to right. I'm going to flip it over like a pancake. And I'm going to put that crease back in again. I'm just going to fold it towards me. What we're doing is we're confusing the crease. That crease now doesn't know if it wants to be a mountain crease or a valley crease. So you can fold it back and forth a couple of times. Okay. Now, open up the paper. We're going to put that mountain crease back in. We're going to take that paper that's closest to you and again, push it to the back. So now you can close and open. Okay, and I'm going to mark this so that you can see it better. Okay, up at the top, you have created this V-shaped crease. And that is going to be the pop-up mechanism. So to make it work, you're going to start to close the envelope, the card, but you're going to reach in and take just that top layer and go right in there with your finger and pull it towards you. So you're making that little pocket and just keep pulling it towards you while you close the card. So now you have that pop-up mechanism that's in there. And you can take your little heart and you have that center opening, which is also a crease on the back. Okay. You're going to fold it backwards, fold it in half. Okay. Not towards you, but away. You want that to be a mountain crease. And then you can attach that little heart with your glue right to that pop-up mechanism. So let me get a little glue. Okay, I took a little glue stick here. And just put a little, whoop, that's kind of goopy. Okay. And just make sure that it fits right on that center crease. Close up the card, push everything nice and flat. And there's your pop-up heart. Okay, so I had a couple here, a couple of samples that I made. So I did write, again, I said I wrote on here, but I wrote with the Sharpie marker and the ink bled into the paper, and so the letters are not crisp. They're kind of difficult to read. But there's the conversation heart on the inside. And I just wrote here with a regular pen, but you could do your printing on the computer if you like things to look a little bit neater or a little bit more professional. But I kind of like the handwritten look to it. And that goes right in. And then this is the one that I made the mistake on because I wanted to do something with the edge here to make it look interesting. So I took a piece of a strip of paper, a scrap, and I used my decorative scissors to cut the edge, and I glued it on. But then I discovered that the openings that were supposed to be at the top, and I used scrap paper, that were supposed to be at the top, I had put them at the bottom. So I still made that little V, except I used both layers. So from the front, it has, you can see both layers are there. So it took the whole corner. But the person receiving the card doesn't have to know it was a mistake. So that's the way I wanted it to be. And so then I cut this edge even shorter so that the colored strip would show. Okay. So now we have one more model to fold, and this happens to be one of my favorite all-time models. And for this, you're going to use the piece of origami paper that you got. So this is already cut into a square. And it's a relatively simple model to fold. The only hard part is there's a fold in there where we're going to fold things in thirds. So that takes a little bit of give and take, we'll call it. Okay, so we're going to start with the colored side facing up. Okay, let me show you what the model is. This is a pair of lips, and they kiss or they talk. Okay, so the color is actually on the inside. Okay, so we're going to put the color on the inside when we take the bottom corner. Again, we're doing a diagonal crease. So take the bottom corner to the top corner. You're making a white triangle. Okay, and be as accurate as you can in making this crease. Okay, you want to have no color showing. You can see I have an itsy bitsy little bit of red showing here, but I think it's pretty good. So now we need to find on this folded edge, we need to divide it into thirds. So we're going to use something called approximation. When you fold thirds, I'm going to start, okay, so let me say that this is about a third, okay? So when I fold this third on top of the paper, underneath it, an equal amount is also a third. So I have 1/3 on top, I have 1/3 underneath, and the amount that's left is a third. Both your sides are red. I'm sorry. It doesn't matter then. Yeah, don't worry. If both sides are red, yep, don't matter. It doesn't matter. I'm sorry. Both your sides are red. You don't have a piece of origami paper? Okay.
Marianne, a couple people got solid red pieces because it was a few short.
Oh, okay.
So I just, it's the same size. It's the same weight. It's just both sides are red.
Okay, so this is the thing with if both sides are red, you're going to not see any difference between the lips and this outside paper. Okay, so that's the only thing. But you'll be able to fold it. Okay, all right. So so we approximated when we folded it over. We approximated that.
I got one person, Lori raised her hand. So I'm going to unmute her, see if she has a question. Hi, Lori. Did you have a question?
Hi.
Hi.
Lori? No?
No, she can't.
Lori, did you have a question?
No, I don't know how to do this. Chat, I don't know.
Are you speaking about the project or the hand raising?
I don't know how to do this.
You mean fold in a third? That's what I'm explaining. So I haven't told you to do anything yet. I'm just showing you, I'm explaining, okay? And then we'll do it. So we're only concerned about this edge that's folded. And I'm bringing one part of that edge on top of itself. And I'm just estimating that that's going to be about a third. So what I have on top is a third. what is underneath is a third, and what's left is a third. Okay, so I'm going to take this part from the right, and I'm folding it on top of itself. And it looks to me that this is about equal to the part that's left. Okay, now I'm going to bend the left side, but not on top. I'm going to bend it behind. So I'm actually making like the letter S. Okay, so as long as the folded edges are all on top of each other, and you see I haven't made any creases yet, I'm just going to be pushing it back and forth. So you see I can make it smaller, I can make them larger, back and forth until they look like they are about lined up. And then you have to get those little lumps out. And you're just going to keep making them a little bit smaller or a little bit larger, back and forth. And then give it a pinch and then check. Now, instead of being like the letter S, now it's like the letter Z. Okay, because you have those little pinches there. So you just want to get them to be the same size. Everything lined up along this top is flat. And when you're happy that they are equal, all thirds, then you can put it down and make the crease. So make sure the top stays lined up on top of itself and make that crease. So you should have a triangle flap on the top. And if you turn it over, an equal triangle flap on the back. Can you measure a third with a ruler? Probably not, because it's such a strange fraction that it's very hard to do. This is actually going to be more accurate than using a ruler. You know, if it was 6 inches, if the measurement was 6 inches, then it would be 2 inches, 2 inches, 2 inches to be easy. But this is like, I don't even know what it is, but it's not a simple fraction. So this is called estimation. Okay, we're estimating and then adjusting and readjusting and readjusting until you get that thirds. Okay, that, take my word for it, is the hardest part of the model. Okay, so there's nothing harder than that from now on. Now there's one more fold that we can make right now. Usually I make it later, but I think it's easier for people to make it now. So you see this part that's down here at the bottom? If I fold that up so that this edge lies along this diagonal crease, I actually end up with a square. So I'm just going to fold that little triangle up. Okay, it was down here, and I just folded it up, and you can see the crease. I folded it up, and I now have the outside is a square. Okay. So you can put that back down because we're not going to need that crease till later. Now we're just going to concern ourselves with this top triangle flap. Okay, so we're going to pretend that the point of the triangle is a person, and the person lost something in their house. Actually, if you turn it around so the triangle's at the top, now you have a house. Okay, so you've got this little corner here. So they're going to start looking in their house. First, they're going to go to the attic. So I'm going to take that corner all the way up to the top corner of the house, lining it up along the outside edge of the house. I'm folding up a triangle flap. They went up to the attic to look, and they couldn't find what they were looking for. So they decided to go straight down to the basement. So now I'm taking that same corner all the way down to the bottom corner of the house. Everything lines up. Every time you make a crease, you'll see that it just lines up inside that shape. Okay. So first I went to the attic. Then I came down to the basement. No luck. Now they're going to look outside. They're going to take this little triangle, which keeps getting smaller, going to take the inside cut edge and bring it along this center line. So they're going to come up and over, and they're going to stick their head out the window. So now they're looking out of the window of the house. And they're looking straight out, but they also want to look down. So now I'm going to take the top edge of this little bit that's hanging out past the edge of the house, and I'm going to fold it straight down. It's going to touch right here. Little pointer. It's going to touch this little corner right here. So I keep folding little teeny tiny triangles. And there it is.
And Lori, excuse me, not Lori, Miriam, when you get a chance, we had a request. Can you start the attic again, please?
Oh, okay. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to turn it over, and I have a new flap that's exactly like the flap on the other side. So we're going to fold this flap this exact same way. So here we go. We're down here at the bottom. Okay, here's the corner. I'm going to go all the way up to the top corner, up to the attic. And every time I fold, I'm going to have a triangle. From the attic, I go straight down. So it's the edge is coming right along this to the bottom corner to the basement. From the attic to the basement. And now we're going to go up to the middle floor and look out the window. So here's the middle floor. I'm going to take this cut edge right along that middle floor edge and stick the head out the window. Make sure it's in the right spot. Straight out the window. And now I'm going to look down. So it's going to touch this little corner that's right down at the bottom. Teeny weeny little triangle flap. Okay. So we folded it on the front and we folded it on the back. This is the part that everybody always hates when I say. We're going to take all of those folds and unfold them. On the front and on the back. And even open it all the way up. Now, you remember we folded a whole bunch of triangles. So I want those triangles at the top and at the bottom. I think I'm going to do some marking here so that you can see things more clearly. Okay. So what you will see, and I'm going to call this north, south, east, and west. Okay, so north is up at the top, south, east, and west. East and west are very plain, and you'll see that there's a crease going horizontally across. Half of that crease is a valley crease. The other half is a mountain crease. This is what happens when you have paper folded in half and you start making creases on it. Half of the creases are valleys and half are mountains. So I want this to be a valley crease all the way across. So I'm going to find the valley crease and I'm going to put that back in and just re-emphasize that crease so that it's a valley all the way across. And then down below it, I also have another crease that goes horizontally. And also, it's valley on one side and mountain on the other. I want it to be all valley. So I'm going to take the valley side, put it back in, and carefully make sure that that other half becomes a valley. There we go. Okay. Now the same problem we're going to have, there's a V. So it comes here like this. Okay. Once, I just want to make sure I'm doing this right. Wait a second. I want this to be, I want that to be, I want that to be a mountain. Okay, so one of them is a mountain, the other one's a valley. So to make the valley crease into a mountain, it's easy if you push up from the bottom. So I've got my finger underneath, and I'm just going to push up a little bit. See how I'm kind of pushing the paper around my finger? And I'm going to find that crease and just pushing up from the bottom, and I'm going to pinch it. So now this V is two mountains. Right at the tip, remember the last fold we looked when we were looking out the window and we looked down. That was that last little tiny triangle that you made. So I want you to make that into a mountain by just taking the point and just bringing it around to the back. Okay, if you have origami paper, you can see it, the red triangle on the white, okay, to the back. And the last thing we need is right below that crease, there's a V that goes up. And also, one side is a mountain, the other side is a valley. They both need to be mountains. So again, I'm going to push up from underneath along that crease, let the crease reveal itself, and I'm just going to gently pinch it Both of those need to be mountains. Now I'm going to turn it. So I'm going to make this be south. Okay, I have a new north side. And again, this V needs to be 2 mountains. So I'm going to pick the paper up, find the crease, push gently up from underneath, let the paper start to crease itself, and just pinch. Just gently, gently pinch it into place. You don't want to make a new crease. You want to use the crease that's already there. Okay. Mountain and mountain. The mountain crease comes up. The top, we're going to blunt that again by taking the first little crease that we come to, push that tip to the back. And then we have this upside down V. I'm going to find the mountain, and I'm going to change the valley crease into a mountain. Just gently, gently caressing it so that the crease presents itself, and I'm just helping it to change my valley into a mountain. Okay. So now all the creases are in, and we're just going to collapse this into the mouth. And so what you're going to do now is you're going to take what was north and south, you're going to make that east and west. Okay. You have this center horizontal crease. Okay, and I'm going to pinch the mountains that I just created and make sure this valley in the center. So I'm pinching them together. Okay, just pinching it. And then I'm going to I have like 2 handles now. So I'm going to take those 2 handles and I'm going to gently push them towards the center. And as I do, the north and the south are going to start to come together. And it closes into that house shape. Remember the little head sticking out of the house? Okay. Let me open it up and do it again because that can be a little confusing. So I have the east and west. This is going to be the lip. Okay. So I'm going to pinch those together. And the same thing on the other side. I'm going to pinch that together. Now I have little handles. And you see I can move them in and out. So I'm going to bring them towards the center. And as I do, the north and the south are going to come together. And those lips are going to be on the inside of this house shape. And I can just push everything down flat. We're almost done. We made this crease before that formed the roof of the house. That triangle, if I lift up one of them is easily goes inside, but the other one, I have to change the crease from a valley to a mountain. So I'm just going to push that so the triangle goes inside. So both triangles are inside now. Okay. So this is what it looks like on the inside. Okay. Everything is closed and flat with these little points sticking out on each side. And I have the open end, there's two edges. If I turn that to the bottom, okay, it's easy to lift up one layer, and I'm going to go from the bottom edge up to the top and only go as far as the lips will let you go. So maybe you can go all the way to the top, or maybe just a little below it, and fold that flat. Then take the whole thing and flip it over side to side and do the same thing. The remaining bottom edge up to the top, and that exposes the lips. So now, again, I'm going to rotate it. So the lips, they're down at the bottom. I want them to be up at the top. Kind of looks like a package with a bow on it. And again, I'm going to take that loose flap, just one layer, and I'm going to line it up with the bottom edge of the lips. So I'm just folding it up to that bottom flat edge of the lips. And again, you can use your folding tool if you want. And I'm going to flip it to the other side and repeat. Fold it up and crease. And I know you don't believe me, but we're done. So that's a little handle on this side, and you have a little handle on the other side. And when you pull the two handles apart, there's your talking lips. Now, some people like to take the lower lip and get rid of those points. See those little corners there? Down here, there's like a little sharp corner. So if you want, you can take that and just fold it to the back. An itsy teeny weeny beeny little bit. It's so small. I don't even know if you can see it. It's just a teeny weeny little bit that I folded to the back, just to blunt this corner. And if that's not something you're comfortable with, you can just leave it. But it kind of gives it a little bit more shape, a little bit more of a rounded shape. And there's your talking lips. Now this can also be put into a card. I'll just use this card as a sample, but you can take it and you would take it, like the first thing that you want to do is, if you're going to put it in a card, this little handle that you folded, you're going to want to put some glue in there to glue the handle to itself so that it stays shut, okay? And then you're going to glue this handle, the top part, take the whole thing and put it right into the spine of the card and close it. Then open it up. And again, make sure that you have glued your handle, this layer. Make sure that you've glued that shut. And then put, again, on the handle, not on this back white part, just on the handle. Put a strip of glue and close the card again. So then when you open it, you'll get that talking motion or the kissing motion. There it is. Okay, so that is it for Valentine's Day models. I hope I didn't kill anybody on that last model. It was a little bit challenging, but it was recorded, so you can go to the recording and see it again. And the name of the model is the Kissing Lips, and you can also find that on the internet if you look for it. Okay, Amber.
Gotta unmute myself. Okay, does anyone have any questions? Did anyone successfully make everything? I hope so. Let us know if you were successful. If you have to rewatch, that's okay too.